يا أرحم الراحمين وصل اللهم على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين. We continue to examine the biography of our beloved first Imam, the commander of the faithful, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. And last night we concluded with Hadithul Manzila, one of the very important hadith that, alaykum assalam rahmatullah, one of the most important hadith that indicates the successorship of our beloved Imam alayhi salam. And I had mentioned that there are different manazil, different ranks and statuses that were established for Harun with relation to Musa, and these same manazil and same ranks have been given to the commander of the faithful, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, in relation to Rasulullah. And the only exception that was made in the hadith is nubuwah, prophethood. And the reason that exception is there is because Allah has sealed prophethood and messengerhood with the Holy Prophet. Not that Ali alayhi salam does not qualify for that position, but because there's no need for that prophethood position anymore, since Rasulullah is the last. Otherwise, that means Rasulullah is not the last messenger. For that reason, alaykum assalam, for that reason, we have the exception of nubuwah. Ya Ali, anta minni bimanzilati Harun min Musa, illa annahu la nabiyya ba'di. O Ali, you are to me the same way Harun was to Musa, except that there is no prophet after me. One of the key words that is highlighted in this hadith, alaykum salam, is ba'di. Ba'di. La nabiyya ba'di. After me. This ba'di has two indications. Number one, that I am the last messenger. But number two, these statuses remain in effect after me. The statuses that will be mentioned are not limited to my life. Ba'di. After me, these status will continue in effect, because we do have arguments from the other side saying that this was limited to his life and that Harun died during the life of Musa, so we're going to say that this is temporary. No, Ba'di is key here. Before we get into the manazil of Harun and compare them with the manazil of Ali ibn Abi Talib, or the statuses that have been established for both, it's important to understand that these manazil are divinely appointed. These manazil, these statuses and positions are not human selected. They are divinely appointed. This is key. The main difference between the Shia theology and Shia creed and the Sunni creed is that we believe that this position of leadership after the Holy Prophet is divinely appointed, where they believe it's what? Humanly selected. Let's look at the verses that talk about the statuses of Harun, and we will see that from the first word in these verses, it highlights divine selection. What does the verse say? أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. The verses of Surah Taha. وَاجْعَلْ لِي وَزِيرًا مِّنْ أَهْلِي. That is the first word that we are faced with, is جَعْل. وَاجْعَلْ لِي, and make for me. Who's asking? Musa. Who's he asking? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Had it been human selection, Musa would have just said, you are my wazir, and that's it. No, he has to go through Allah first. And these verses are so important that Allah highlighted them. That conversation is integral and essential that Allah highlights it. You know, oftentimes an argument is raised by the other school is that who is the successor of Musa that remained after him? Yusha ibn Nun, right? Joshua or Yusha. And therefore, why doesn't Rasulullah say, you are to me like Yusha was to Musa? Why does he say Harun? Well, irrespective of exactly why Allah intended to use this and not that, is simply because the conversation about the statuses of the wasi were mentioned in the case of Harun in the Holy Quran. Had he said, you are to me like Yusha to Musa, they could come with other arguments as well. But it's clear as day that the statuses of Harun in relation to Musa are mentioned in detail in the Holy Quran. So when he says, you are to me like Harun was to Musa, that is more than enough to establish the relationship between Ali and Rasulullah. Add to that, if Harun did not die in the life of Musa, he would have been the successor. The reason why Yusha bin Nun was the successor is because Harun died during the time of Musa alayhi salam. Let's look at these manazil. وَاجْعَلْ لِي وَزِيرًا مِّنْ أَهْلِي, and make for me or appoint for me a wazir, a minister from my family. Now we have another term to look at here, is ahli. Ahli. Which means that the appointed vicegerent is from the ahl. And when we look in the history of Anbiya and Awsiya, tell me of a point or an instance where there was a Nabi who appointed a successor who is not from their family. The successor is usually from the same family, from the bloodline. وَاجْعَلْ لِي وَزِيرًا مِّنْ أَهْلِي. Wazir, what does wazir mean? Wazir comes from the word wizr. Wizr, وَرَفَعْنَا لَكَ وَرَفَعْنَا عَنْكَ وِزْرَكَ, right? وَرَفَعْنَا عَنْكَ وِزْرَكَ وَرَفَعْنَا لَكَ ذِكْرَكَ. Wizr is thiql, it's heavy. Something that is very, very heavy. Wazir is a person who assists you in carrying the heavy tasks. The wazir, in relation to the king, these two positions, the king is the leader, the one who is the chief or the chair of the institution, be it in a political institution or religious institution. The head figure needs an assistant to hold on or take on their burdens, to carry with them that very, very heavy task. And here we're talking about the task of nubuwwah, the task of risala. It's a very, very heavy task. So he's saying, this task, Ya Allah, I cannot take it on my own. فَجْعَلْ لِي وَجْعَلْ لِي وَزِيرًا. I need a wazir, someone who would handle this task, someone who is my right hand, someone who is my assistant, someone who is my vicegerent, min ahli, from my family. Does he name him? Yes. Haruna akhi. Haruna akhi. Ishdud bihi azri. Strengthen me through him. Azr, they say, is that area that today we refer to, for example, as the belt, right? The hizam, the belt around the waist. And the reason why the hizam has always been used, today maybe we use it for reasons like fashion and so on and so forth, but the initial use of hizam is to tie the waist so that you have strength and you're ready to do hard work. وَاشْدُدْ بِهِ أَزْرِي وَاشْرِكْهُ فِي أَمْرِي وَأَشْرِكْهُ فِي أَمْرِي. وَأَشْرِكْهُ فِي أَمْرِي means, and let him share my task. What is the amr of Musa? The message, al-risala, the religion. أَشْرِكْهُ فِي أَمْرِي. Ashrik comes from the word sharaka or shirk. Shirk as in partnership, right? Question. When we have two partners and one of them is gone, who is the authority with respect to that affair that they are partners in? The second person. Exactly, the second person. So therefore, when Musa is gone, Harun is in charge. And Ali is also the partner of Rasulullah. Anta minni bimanzilati Harun Musa. So when Rasulullah is gone, who is in charge? Ali is automatically in charge. وَاشْرِكْهُ فِي أَمْرِي كَيْ نُسَبِّحَكَ كَثِيرًا, that we may glorify you much, وَنَذْكُرَكَ كَثِيرًا, and remember you much. إِنَّكَ كُنْتَ بِنَا بَصِيرًا, indeed you are ever seeing of us. What did Allah say to all these requests? Have these manazil been granted to Harun or no? The answer came, قَالَ قَدْ أُوتِيتَ سُؤْلَكَ يَا مُوسَى. He said, indeed you have been granted your request, O Musa. This is a very simple way to put it and explain it. when it comes to the position of Rasulullah or of Ali alayhi salam with respect to Rasulullah, not only he is his brother in faith, al-ukhuwa al-imaniyya, which is much more stronger than the blood brotherhood, because Harun had two types of brotherhood bonds between him and Musa. One is that they are brothers from the same mom and dad, biological brothers, but that was not the most important brotherhood that they had emphasized. The real brotherhood was their imani brotherhood, their brotherhood that is based on iman, and that was established for Ali ibn Abi Talib in other ahadith. Ya Ali anta akhi fi dunya wal akhirah. And we know in hadith al-mu'akha, which happened twice. Mu'akha happened in Mecca right before the immigration to Medina, and then the second mu'akha happened in Medina when Rasulullah called the ashab and the companions, and he gave everyone a brother, and he left Ali ibn Abi Talib, and he says, Anta akhi fi dunya wal akhirah. You are my brother in this dunya and in the akhirah. In addition to that, we have another position that Musa has given to Harun by the command of Allah, which was given to Ali ibn Abi Talib by Rasulullah by the command of Allah, and that is this position of khilafah, successorship. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala quotes Musa ibn Imran saying, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وقال موسى لأخيه هارون اخلفني في قومي. So he's a khalifa on his qawm. Oftentimes the argument is no, Ali was a khalifa on the family, the direct family of Rasulullah. Rasulullah was leaving and he left Ali to take care of his family, his wives and children and so on and so forth. No, because the verse says qawmi, my qawm, my people. Ya Ali أنت مني بمنزلة هارون من موسى إلا أنه لا نبي بعدي. All these positions that we have discussed are true in the case of Ali ibn Abi Talib except one, and that is nubuwah. Had there been an exception other than nubuwah, it would have been mentioned by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the unique thing about hadithul manzila is it's mutawatir. There's no room for messing and tampering with the authenticity. No one can, even if they tried, to come and say that this hadith is da'if or is not established. They can't, because it's mutawatir. In both books of hadith, Shia and Sunni literature and corpus of hadith, we have this hadith al-manzila clearly mentioned, alaykum as-salam, and clearly established. I want to conclude by highlighting a hadith. And this hadith gives us more insight on the manazil of Amir al-Mu'mineen, that they are not just the manazil of Musa, the Harun to Musa. Ali alayhi salam has the positions and ranks and statuses of all the awsiya to their anbiya. This hadith you probably have never heard of, but this hadith is in Amali Shaykh al-Saduq. Al-Shaykh al-Saduq, one of the greatest of ulama of hadith in the 4th Hijri century, has narrated this hadith in one of his book by Al-Amali. He says that the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi said, Ya Ali, O Ali, Anta minni bimanzilati hibatullahi li Adam. You are to me as hibatullah was to Adam. When Qabil killed his brother Habil, Cain killed his brother Abel, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala compensated Adam and Hawa with hibatullah. Hibatullah literally means the gift of Allah. Some say his name is Shaykh. Hibatullah, Shaykh. Hibatullah was the successor of Adam because Habil was killed. He says, you are to me as Hibatullah was to Adam, and as Sam was to Noah. وَأَنْتَ مِنِّي بِمَنْزِلَةِ Sam min Nuh. Sam is the son of Nuh who received the successorship after him. We know one of his children was a deviant, Canaan, but Sam was a righteous figure. And then he says, you are to me as Ishaq was to Ibrahim. Now, Ishaq was the wasi of Ibrahim. We do have some hadith that say Ismail also was the wasi of Ibrahim. But irrespective of whether it is Ishaq or Ismail, the position that Ali alayhi salam holds is the position of the successor of Ibrahim, whether it is Ishaq or whether it is Ismail. And he says, you are to me as Harun was to Musa. Is this it? No. He continues. And you are to me as Sham'un was to Isa. Simon was to Jesus, because Simon was the wasi of Isa alayhi salam. And in the end he says, except illa annahu la nabiyya ba'di, except that there is no prophet after me. From this we understand that the arguments raised by the other school against Hadithul Manzila do not really hold much weight. They stem from that very biased approach, and because they do not agree that Ali ibn Abi Talib was the rightly guided Khalifa and chosen leader and vicegerent of the Holy Prophet, they have to try to manipulate and direct the meaning of Hadith al-Manzila, like they did with Hadith al-Ghadir, to other meanings. And in the end, we know that those who are seeking the truth and those who are truly genuine about finding what is haqq, they can easily and clearly see and read in this hadith that Ali ibn Abi Talib was the successor of Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. Inshallah, I leave the rest of the 15-20 minutes for your questions and answers. Tonight will be the night of Al-Qadr al-Kubra. We are all, inshallah, requested to ask Allah for the following wishes. First and foremost, hastening of the reappearance of our beloved Imam. This needs to be the top priority of our asks. And number two, to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the correct ma'rifah. The correct ma'rifah. Because without the correct knowledge of Allah and His Messenger and His Hujjaj and the religion, we would be lost. And the third is to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this ma'rifah effective in our lives, that we act in accordance with this ma'rifah. And fourth is that we ask Allah for the final good ending, husnul aqibah, because we may start out on the right path and God forbid deviate. And fifth is we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to end the oppression in this world, the sufferings of our brethren in Gaza and Lebanon and elsewhere. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for safety, for security in all the entire regions of the world. Our brethren in South Syria, our brothers in the rest of the world, in Yemen and so on and so forth, who are subject to persecution, who are subject to all kinds of dhulm. And then of course we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the shifa of the marda, all the mu'mineen and mu'minat who are ill, Ya Allah, grant them shifa. And then we ask Allah for our personal hajat. So you see that we should prioritize the most important first and then come to the less important. To ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us all wishes in this very blessed night of the 23rd of Ramadan, Laylatul Qadr al-Kubra. We ask you all for dua and forgiveness, and we will not forget you inshallah from our du'as, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept from all. So inshallah, if we have a question from the sister's side, as always, the priority goes to you. Okay, no questions on your side, no problem. And then I'll come to the brothers inshallah. Hajj Hamid, we really appreciate your questions.
Thanks. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Let's lower the volume for this one. Yeah.
For me, I think that what resonates, this word ahl or ahli, right? Yeah. So in so many ways, it kind of connects the dots, right? Like ahli, when it comes to when they gave Abu Bakr that ayah Barat to go and give it to Quraysh, and then he was recalled, and what was the word ahli, right? It has to be
لا يبلغ عنك لا يبلغ عنك إلا أنت أو رجل منك or من أهلك.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then
yes.
it also negates their objections to the Ahlul Bayt, right? When they do the siyaq of ayahs of Surah, is it Nisa, I think? Yeah, when they say all the Nisa and Nabi, they're like 18 times, they kunna and so forth, and then it becomes
Al-Ahzab.
Ahzab, yeah. Then the word kum comes,
Kum,
right?
ahsan. إنما يريد الله يذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت.
Because they falsely claim that the wives are also Ahlul Bayt.
Yes,
but then this ayah that you said that make somebody wazir from my ahli.
أحسنتم.
So that kind of connects the dot to Imam Ali
and this is what happens when we put things together. When we look at the Holy Quran as a full and comprehensive source for understanding our belief system, of course alongside the correct sunnah. And here we're not referring to a hadith that only we claim. No, these are hadith that both schools have accepted. Yes, they again try to divert the meaning and indication because it doesn't fit with their narrative. And this is where we have to come back and say that we need to look at this without any biases so that we can better understand these indications of these hadith.
And that's why they kind of tie themselves in knots and try to not give Imam Ali the proper...
In fact, Abu Bakr tied himself in one of the knots in Saqifa. What happened is when the Ansar says that we should be giving the authority and leadership, the argument Abu Bakr and Umar raised in Abu Ubaid al-Jarrah as well, they said that we are his family. We are from Quraysh and you guys are not from Quraysh. So who's closer? Ali ibn Abi Talib later on heard about this argument. He said, wow, subhanallah, what an argument. If that's their argument, then I can use that argument and say, I am closer. Who's closer, them or me? If it's about closer, I'm the closest. So how can they even use that argument? So yes, in fact, they used other arguments according to one of the books I've read, and Al-Ihtijaj, that one of the arguments they've used is age. He said Ali ibn Abi Talib was young in age, and 30 is not young, especially at that time. When Osama bin Zayd was sent to lead the expedition against the Romans, how old was he? 18 to 20, right? And the people that were with him, including Abu Bakr, he was supposed to be in that expedition, he was about 60 years old. So it's really not about the age. Ali ibn Abi Talib was given ilm, hikmah, he was given the ألف باب من العلم يفتح لي من كل باب ألف باب, 1,000 gates of knowledge. So it's not about that. وآتيناه الحكم صبيا. I mean, the Quran clearly responds and refutes these allegations. But the nice and unique thing here is that Abu Quhafa, the father of Abu Bakr, heard of this argument as well, and he didn't like it. He received a letter from his son that, father, I have become the Khalifa of the Muslimin and this and that. And his father, according to this hadith, has rebuked him and reprimanded him. He says, if the criterion is age, I need to be the Khalifa because I'm your dad. I'm older than you for sure. So really, all the arguments that they try to pose, whether age, whether it is alaykum salam, closeness to Rasulullah, all these arguments were negated and were very, very flawed. Ahsantum. Alaykum salam wa rahmatullah. Ahsantum. Sisters on your side, anything? It doesn't have to be regarding the lecture if you have questions outside. Ahsantum. Alaykum salam. Go ahead, sister. Mehtab. Sister over there, Mehtab, yes. حياكم الله.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaykum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I have a question regarding the night tonight, the Laylatul Qadr night. I think there is this the worry and messages going around about trying to get your list done about what to ask for tonight. I have a question versus putting down lists and trying to remember everything or trying not to forget anything versus just submitting to God's will and say whatever is good for you, because that ultimate tawakkul, that it doesn't matter.
Ahsanti. Sometimes these lists that we have of wishes is just to kind of get our mind set on the most important. But I agree with you. I think if you want to take it to a higher level, what you're referring to right now is the taslim liqada'illah. This is like the peak. And this is really the aim for all of us, is to be in the position to say truly, with all honesty, without any form of just lip service. No, truly from the bottom of our heart, Allahumma fa'al bima anta ahluh. Allah, do to me as you see fit, what you are worthy of. Because in the end of the day, we don't know what is in our best interest. I may ask to own a home this year, but Allah knows this is not in my best interest. So there's no point of me wasting my breath and asking for a home, right? So the best is to say, Ya Allah, do whatever you see fit, whatever you see best. That needs to be the intention. But when it comes to the aqa'idi aspects, these should be mentioned. Like, Ya Allah, give me ma'rifah of you. Because we are told to ask Allah for an increased yaqeen, increased ma'rifah, increased taqwa, increased basira and foresight. Because these are related to the akhirah. Whatever is related to the akhirah, ask for it. The issue is anything related to dunya, that is where just do taslim. Say, because dunya is a transitory abode. It's like you're invited over someone's house. You're there just for a day and then you go on with your trip. And they say, what would you like me to make for you? What kind of food? You say, do whatever you see, whatever you think is good. Because it's not important. You're going to be fed at the end of the day. In this dunya, we are in this very transitory abode. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for whatever He sees fit. But in the akhirah, no. We want the best. We want the best. Like that lady that had an encounter with Musa alayhi salam. Probably heard of her story, the elderly woman. When she came to Musa alayhi salam and she says, I know where the remains of Yusuf were. So that they were supposed to transport the remains of Yusuf into into Baytul al-Maqdis, into Jerusalem. And he said, what do you want? She said, for me to tell you, I want one thing from you. She said, of course, there's other asks. They're secondary. Make me young again and all that. Of course, ask Allah to make me young. She said, my main ask is I want to have a position right next to you in Jannah. When Imam al-Sadiq mentions this riwayah, he says, you need to have the hope of this elderly woman who had an encounter with Musa. Don't be like asking to be in the... because sometimes we say, Ya Allah, even if you give us an attic in paradise or a garage or something we're happy with. No, ask for the highest. Ask for the highest. Ask to be with Rasulullah, with the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. So akhirah, ask for the most you can, and Allah is generous. But for dunya, ask for what keeps you on the path, and nothing beyond that. Ahsantu. Thank you, Ahsanti. Any other sister with questions? Okay. Brothers, anything on your side? Yeah, I know we're getting close to iftar. I agree with you 100%. Yeah. Anyone else? You're starving. Yeah. Okay. Oh, go ahead, Hajj Muhammad. Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
So yeah, just following up on your lectures that you had given in the previous days.
Yes.
I'm still, a little bit not sure. You talked about Siddiq and Sadiq and, the title, right? So as you talked about, and, what brother was asking here, right? So how did it come about that Abu Bakr had that title? How did he get that title? And I don't see any, the Shia side, right, ever having that title. So I was wondering if you can clarify.
So really these titles, there is a hadith attributed to the Imam alayhi salam, the Commander of the Faithful, that he mentions these titles and he says, "La yadda'iha ba'di illa kadhab." No one claims these titles after me except other than me except a liar. In other words, the titles were given later on. During the time of the life of Abu Bakr, he was not known for the As-Siddiq. These titles came about later on by the opponents of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Part of it was the movement that was initiated by Muawiyah, where he ordered those muhaddithin, the people of hadith, he says, whatever fadila you can find from Ali ibn Abi Talib, I need you to remove it and give it to somebody else. So you'll find many instances, not just fada'il, even stories that happened in the life of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Like for example, the story that Ali and the lady with the orphans, even that was stolen and given to Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, or one of their caliphs and their leaders. So you find that usurpation of Al-Qab was always there, and this went all the way to Banu al-Abbas. Banu al-Abbas also stole the Al-Qab of the Ahl Bayt alayhim salam. Al-Mahdi, Al-Abbasi, right? Al-Mansur, Al-Rashid. These are titles for the Ahl Bayt alayhim salam. So really, As-Siddiq, Al-Faruq is Ali. Ya Ali, anta As-Siddiq al-Akbar, wa anta Al-Faruq. He is Siddiq. He's the most truthful. He is in the Quran, was-Siddiqeen, was-Shuhada, was-Salihin, wa hasuna ulaika rafiqa. He is Al-Faruq because he represents that criterion, Al-Furqan, bayn al-Haqq wal-Batil. And he is the Nurayn. Even the Nurayn that was given to Uthman is usurped from Amir al-Mu'mineen because he is the Nurayn, Al-Hasani wal-Husayn. And many other titles that were usurped from Ali. So these are really usurped, and they came after even the demise of Abu Bakr and Umar and them. They weren't prevalent in their life. They weren't even known with these titles. Ahsantum, ahsantum. Sister Jannah, do you have a recital to do? And Nurseen, if you can please welcome Jannah Al-Jumaili and Nurseen Al-Musawi with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. They're going to be reciting for us, inshaAllah. Nurseen, what are you going to be reciting for us? Dua al-Faraj. Jannah, what are you going to be reciting for us? Very good. And both of you are going to be doing it, inshaAllah. And this is a very important night. This is, I think, one of the most important du'as that we should be reciting. So they're going to start us off with Dua al-Faraj. Let's give them 3 loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Look this way, look this way, look this way. Nurseen, look this way. Look this way. Yes. Yeah. Stand. Okay. Adam, fix their standing. Make them face this way. Yes. Perfect. Here, actually use this too.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma kun waliyaka Hujjat ibn al-Hasan salawatuka alayhi wa ala ba'ih في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه طوعا طويلا برحمتك الرحمن الرحيم صلوات